Guys, welcome back. So in this video, we'll be trying to understand the thought process involved in polity questions. And in this specific video, we are discussing UPSC 2021 Mains GS2 question and the trends on this particular topic. So the topic is about constitutional morality. You can read the questions here. Before we begin this breakdown video of the thought process, you also have to realize that UPSC is slightly moving towards constitutional philosophy, or in judicial parlance, you can say it is asking questions based on judicial doctrines and jurisprudence. That is, the reasoning involved or the approaches involved in dealing with certain important social issues. So if you take a look at the 2020 mains question paper, there was a question on doctrine of separation of powers. I mean, as such, this is a very straightforward question from Lakshmikant. And before that, owing to the discussions on Article 370, that is the Kashmir issue, there was this principle of federal supremacy and the discussion on doctrine of harmonious construction. As such, when you're a student of constitutional law, you will come across these doctrines. But we are preparing for general studies. You are not expected to, uh, you know, know all this doctrines. But whenever you are preparing fundamental rights chapter, let's say for example you are having a discussion on Article 13, then a discussion on doctrine of eclipse becomes very essential. Similarly, when you are discussing about separation of powers and federalism, the doctrine of pith and substance also becomes important. So the fact that Lakshmikant alone might not exactly help you to address these questions is very pertinent. So, for example, if you talk about constitutional morality, it is pretty much evident. But if you have to exactly understand the essential facets of what constitutes constitutional morality, you should be able to link it to the preamble and the history behind all the ideals which are laid down in the preamble. So, this understanding should be reflected in your answer with certain judicial decisions. Now, in the channel, that is Hindu Highlights Telegram channel, where I've been posting newspaper articles, I've usually commented about the need to understand the concept in the larger picture. Like, say, for example, this issue of interfaith marriage is essentially uh, an aspect of fundamental rights. And if you click it here, it redirects you to this particular article where I've mentioned a lot of cases, like say for example the Puttaswamy judgment, right to privacy in 2017, and all the other cases. Again, you can find the connection here to the previous article, which discussed the various phases or evolution of the thought process in judiciary. So this particular editorial redirected to the various phases of the constitutional approach from the Hindu, where you understand the kind of judgments that came out because of the predominant thought process in that era. Like in the present phase, you are seeing a lot of emphasis on rights. That is, judiciary is majorly concerned about increasing the freedoms of people, like say for example the Sabarimala judgment, or the emphasis on ensuring the right to privacy. The rights of individuals are being focused upon, and this is leading to a small transformation in the society, because judiciary's ultimate objective, like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar always envisaged through his constitutional values, it envisages a social transformation. That is when the real meaning of democracy is realized, because you don't want a population that is subjugated and their rights are not realized. So this is the phase of transformative constitutionalism, and this phase has been used a lot of times in newspapers. So the challenge is linking all this evolving thoughts from newspapers to your basics. So when we're talking about constitutionalism, you might actually see that in your NCRT textbook, you'll definitely find this word constitutionalism in the very first chapter. So linking this idea of constitutionalism to constitutional morality, how does this happen? So you should be having that ability to understand the reason why limitation on any government, which is the meaning of constitutionalism, will actually increase the liberty which is a part of the preamble. Now in preamble there are a lot of terms, right? justice, liberty, equality, etc., etc. That, along with what we know as fundamental rights. The first one being Article 14, right to equality, and the emphasis on rule of law. So the facets that we are talking about is nothing but whatever is mentioned in our fundamental rights, that is Article 14, rule of law, or the focus on individual liberties, that is right to freedom, and freedom of choice, that is usually associated under the bracket umbrella of right to freedom, and even the ideals expressed under Article 13(9) through directive principles of state policy, where the constitution envisages a role to the state, wherein state plays a positive role in the social transformation through various principles of social justice. So all these ideas should be uh, reflected in your answer. Now comes the actual part. How do we organize all these thoughts into coherent structure? Firstly, whatever you understood as constitutional morality, you have to write down in a single line. That is adherence to the norms in the constitution in its truest spirit. The spirit of the constitution is actually visible in various facets, like, say, for example, the preamble of the constitution. You write down the ideals that the preamble expounds. Then, if you are stuck there, you can think about the order in which Lakshmikant book is organized, or whatever textbook that you're following in your polity textbook, or even if you're talking about the bare constitution from Article 1 to Article 400, if you have by hearted it, you can organize your thoughts based on the serial number of the articles. Like, say, for example, after reading the preamble, the next thing that really helps us is fundamental rights, where we are talking about the rights of individuals through Article 14, 19, and 32. And then after that, the next chapter is DPSP, and then after that, you're talking about fundamental duties. And finally, often aspirants tend to ignore the fact that even checks and balances is a very good aspect of uh, constitutional morality, because it talks about balance of power, because concentration of power actually creates to anarchy, and that is why we want a system that is balancing the powers and checking the arbitrary usage of power of people. So you're able to communicate your thoughts very clearly just by remembering the order of chapters in Lakshmikant. So you don't have to search for information if you organize your thoughts in this particular manner. And as far as the examples are concerned, we have already mentioned in the channel about the various cases and the historical developments that happened in the past 3-4 years. So whether it is the judgment of Puttaswamy, that is the privacy judgment, or the LGBT rights based issue, that is the Navteej Singh Johar issue, or the Nas Foundation case, which tried to say that constitutional morality and not public morality should prevail in cases of rights. And the case that is related to adultery, that is Joseph Shine. We have discussed all this in the Telegram channel. You can just go through them. You can use these examples, or the latest Indian lawyers case, or sorry, I mean Indian Young Lawyers Association case versus the state of Kerala, which is famously known as the Sabarimala case. You can quote all these cases and show that constitutional morality, that is the kind of rights that our constitution respects. In 1947, we don't have the same kind of judgments, and society keeps on evolving. So the greatness about our constitution is it kept in mind what is the situation in 1947, and also gave room for historical decisions that can be taken in the future. So our society is what it is, and what it ought to be, what it is and what it ought to be. So what it ought to be is actually decided by the principles of the constitution. So this understanding is what the examiner probably might be looking at in this question, according to me. So if you think this kind of structuring will help you, please try to implement that, and it will surely have a positive reinforcement in your thought process, especially ordering of the information, because the real challenge in the examination is just organizing that information under 7 minutes. You don't have the time to think of in the examination hall. So I'm just trying to deconstruct the requirements if you're trying to begin your answer writing process. So answer writing from day one is counterproductive because it gives very little room and time for you to contemplate and understand the underlying nuances in a particular topic. So that's it for now. Thank you.